The worst part about discovering your father isn't really your father, is realizing your mother already knew. Kelly Parker kept hearing those words in her head as she stood in the back corner of the funeral home, staring at a photograph she had never seen before in her life. The room smelled like lilies and old carpet, the soft hum of whispered condolences blending with the low piano music playing through hidden speakers in the ceiling. Her grandmother's funeral was supposed to be simple. Quiet. One last difficult Saturday before life moved on again. But then Kelly noticed the photograph sitting half-hidden beneath a stack of old family albums near the memorial table. At first, nothing about it seemed unusual. The edges were faded, the colors washed out from age, the kind of picture people forgot in dusty boxes for decades. Her mother, Elena, couldn't have been older than 22 in it, smiling under the summer sun in a white dress Kelly had never seen before. But it wasn't her mother that made Kelly freeze. It was the man standing beside her. Tall. Dark hair. One arm wrapped around Elena's waist with a kind of familiarity that made Kelly's stomach tighten instantly. He wasn't Robert Parker. He wasn't her father. Kelly slowly picked up the photograph, trying to ignore the strange pressure building in her chest. On the back, written in faded blue ink, were 4 words that immediately made her skin go cold. For Elena, forever. Vincent. Kelly read it twice. Then a third time. Around her, distant relatives continued talking softly about casseroles, flowers, travel plans, all completely unaware that the world had just shifted under her feet. "Who's Vincent?" she asked quietly when her aunt passed by. But her aunt barely glanced at the photo before looking away too fast. "I don't know," she muttered. "Probably an old friend." An old friend. Kelly knew that wasn't true. Nobody held someone like that in a photograph if they were just an old friend. Before she could ask another question, her phone buzzed inside her black dress pocket. She almost ignored it. Almost. But something about the timing made her pull it out anyway. The subject line of the email made her breath catch immediately. DNA results available. Kelly stared at the screen. 2 months earlier, she'd ordered one of those ancestry kits after joking with coworkers about family genetics during lunch. She expected boring results. Maybe Irish ancestry. Maybe Scandinavian roots. Nothing important. She opened the email anyway. The funeral home suddenly felt too warm. Her fingers trembled slightly as she logged into the portal. Processing. Matching relatives. Paternity analysis. Then the sentence appeared on the screen. Robert Parker is excluded as the biological father. Kelly stopped breathing. Literally stopped. The words blurred as her vision tunneled. She blinked hard and reread the sentence again, convinced she misunderstood it. Excluded. Biological father. Robert Parker. Her dad. The man who taught her how to drive in an empty Walmart parking lot. The man who cried when she left for college in Chicago. The man who still called every Sunday morning just to ask if she'd eaten breakfast. Her father. Except suddenly, maybe not. Kelly felt her knees weaken slightly, forcing her to grip the edge of the memorial table for balance. Around her, nobody noticed. Nobody saw her entire identity cracking apart in silence beside her grandmother's ashes. Then her phone started ringing. Dad calling. Kelly stared at the screen in complete horror. Because somehow, it felt like he already knew. Kelly could not bring herself to answer the phone. She just stared at the screen while it vibrated in her trembling hand, Robert Parker's smiling contact photo suddenly feeling unfamiliar, almost dangerous. Around her, people continued hugging, crying softly, talking about memories from her grandmother's life, but their voices sounded distant now, muffled beneath the roaring panic inside her chest. The ringing stopped. Then 1 second later, another message appeared. Hey sweetheart. Call me when you can. Sweetheart. The word nearly broke her. Kelly shoved the phone back into her pocket and forced herself to breathe. This had to be wrong. DNA tests made mistakes all the time. She remembered reading articles about switched samples, incorrect databases, false matches. There had to be an explanation because the alternative was impossible. Robert Parker was her father. He had to be. She looked like him. At least she always thought she did. The same pale blue eyes. The same stubborn silence when angry. The same habit of rubbing the back of their necks while thinking. Growing up, everyone used to joke that Kelly was Robert in a wig. She could still remember sitting on his shoulders during 4th of July parades when she was 6 years old, holding sparklers in the driveway while he warned her not to burn herself. He taught her how to parallel park. He showed up to every single volleyball game in high school even after working 12-hour shifts at the hardware distribution center. No biological test could erase 30 years of that. Right? Kelly looked back down at the photograph in her hand. Vincent. The name now felt poisonous somehow. She quickly slid the picture back beneath the albums like hiding it would somehow undo everything she had seen. Kelly? Her mother's voice startled her. Elena stood near the hallway entrance in a black dress, her mascara slightly smeared from crying earlier. For a moment, Kelly simply stared at her. Suddenly every memory felt unstable. Every family vacation photo. Every birthday dinner. Every Christmas morning. Had her mother been lying through all of it? You okay? Elena asked softly. Kelly forced a smile so fake it hurt her face. Yeah. Just tired. Elena nodded slowly, but her eyes lingered on Kelly for an extra second too long, almost like she sensed something was wrong. Then her gaze shifted toward the memorial table. Toward the hidden photograph. Kelly noticed the exact moment her mother recognized it was missing from its original position. Elena's entire body stiffened. Barely noticeable. But enough. Who moved these albums? She asked casually, too casually. Kelly felt cold all over again. I was looking through them, she admitted carefully. I found an old picture with you and some guy named Vincent. Silence. Not long. Maybe 2 seconds. But long enough. Elena's expression changed so fast Kelly almost missed it. Fear. Real fear. Then it vanished behind a tight smile. Oh. Him. Who was he? Kelly asked. Elena immediately crossed her arms. Defensive. Nobody important. Nobody important. The words hit harder than Kelly expected because they sounded rehearsed, like a line practiced years ago. Then why did he write forever on the back of your picture? Elena's face lost color instantly. Kelly had never seen her mother look nervous before. Not when Grandpa died. Not during financial problems. Not even during Hurricane Sandy when floodwater nearly reached their house. But now her fingers visibly tightened around her purse strap. You should not dig through old things at a funeral, Elena said quietly. Some memories are better left alone. Then she walked away before Kelly could ask another question. Kelly stood frozen in the middle of the funeral home, her pulse hammering harder by the second. Because suddenly the DNA results did not feel like a mistake anymore. They felt connected to something buried a long time ago. Something her mother was terrified would finally come back. Kelly barely remembered the drive home after the funeral. The entire 2-hour trip from Hartford to her apartment in Providence passed in a blur of headlights, rain streaking across the windshield, and the same terrifying thought looping endlessly in her head. If Robert Parker was not her father, then who was she? By the time she reached her apartment building, it was nearly 11 at night. She dropped her keys twice trying to unlock the front door. Her hands still would not stop shaking. The silence inside her apartment felt unbearable. Normally she loved quiet evenings. A glass of wine. Background television noise. Emails from work ignored until morning. But tonight every corner of the room felt unfamiliar, almost like she had stepped into someone else's life. Kelly threw her purse onto the kitchen counter and immediately reopened the DNA results on her laptop, desperate to prove they were wrong. She read every line slowly this time. Sample verified. Relationship probability, 0%. No match detected. She searched online for false paternity test results until nearly midnight. Message boards. Legal websites. Medical articles. Most of them said the same thing. False. Negatives were extremely rare. Rare. Not impossible. Kelly clung to that word like it could save her. Her phone buzzed again. Dad. This time she answered before she could lose her nerve. Hey, kiddo, Robert said warmly, his voice familiar enough to make her chest ache instantly. You made it home okay? Kelly swallowed hard. Yeah. You sounded strange earlier. He paused. Everything all right? She closed her eyes. 30 years of memories flooded through her all at once. Robert teaching her to ride a bike beside their old driveway. Robert sitting beside her hospital bed when she got appendicitis at 14. Robert crying quietly at her college graduation because he said he was proud of the woman she became. No. This man was her father. A website could not change that. I am fine, she lied softly. Just emotionally drained. Yeah, he sighed. Today was hard on everybody. Silence settled between them for a second. Then Robert spoke again, quieter this time. Did your test results ever come in? Kelly's heart nearly stopped. What? That ancestry thing, he said casually. You mentioned it a while back. Kelly gripped the phone tighter. Maybe she was imagining things. Maybe he sounded normal. But something beneath his voice felt tense now, careful somehow. Oh, she forced out. Yeah. They came in. Another pause. Anything interesting? Kelly stared at the rain outside her apartment window. This was the moment. She could ask him directly. She could say the words out loud and watch the truth explode between them. But fear wrapped around her throat. Fear of hurting him. Fear of hearing confirmation. Fear that one sentence might destroy her entire family forever. Mostly European stuff, she lied again. Robert laughed softly. Guess that explains your obsession with overpriced coffee and winter scarves. Kelly almost cried hearing that stupid joke. Because it was exactly the kind of thing her father would say. Her father. Listen, Robert continued, your mother has been emotional all evening. Try not to push her too hard right now. Kelly froze instantly. What do you mean? Nothing, he answered too quickly. Just, today brought back old memories for her. Old memories. Kelly's stomach tightened. Dad, she whispered carefully, who is Vincent Hale? Complete silence. Not breathing. Not movement. Nothing. Then Robert finally spoke, but his voice sounded different now. Smaller somehow. Where did you hear that name? Kelly felt cold spread through her entire body. Because in that single moment, before he even answered, she realized something horrifying. Robert Parker knew exactly who Vincent Hale was. Kelly did not answer him right away. She sat frozen at her kitchen counter, gripping the phone so tightly her fingers hurt, listening to the silence on the other end of the line grow heavier by the second. Robert finally cleared his throat softly. Kelly? She forced herself to speak. There was a photograph at Grandma's funeral. Mom was standing with him. Another long pause followed. Then Robert exhaled slowly, like a man realizing something he spent decades hiding had finally reached the surface. You should get some sleep, he said quietly. We can talk later. No, Kelly said immediately. Who is he? Robert did not answer directly. Your mother has had a hard enough day already. That sentence hit Kelly harder than yelling would have. Not denial. Not confusion. Protection. He was protecting Elena. Which meant there was something to protect. Dad, Kelly whispered, her voice cracking despite herself, why are you acting like this? Robert sounded tired suddenly. Older than she had ever heard him before. Because sometimes the past does not stay buried the way people hope it will. Then the line disconnected. Kelly stared at the phone in disbelief. He hung up. Robert Parker had never hung up on her in her entire life. Not once. The apartment suddenly felt suffocating. Kelly stood and paced across the living room, trying to slow her breathing. Everything felt wrong now. The funeral. The photograph. Her mother's panic. Robert's silence. It all connected somehow, and she could feel the truth sitting just beyond reach like a shadow she could almost touch. Around 1:30 in the morning, Kelly made a decision she immediately hated herself for. By 8 the next morning, she was driving back to her parents' house in Milford. Rain clouds still covered the sky, turning the quiet suburban streets gray and empty. Her mother's SUV was already in the driveway when Kelly arrived. Robert's truck was gone. Probably work. For a brief moment, Kelly considered leaving. Pretending none of this happened. Pretending her entire identity had not cracked open in less than 24 hours. But then she remembered the look on Elena's face at the funeral. Fear. Real fear. Kelly walked inside using her old key. The familiar smell of coffee and laundry detergent nearly shattered her resolve instantly. This was home. Every framed family photo lining the hallway suddenly felt like evidence instead of memories. Mom, she called softly. No answer. Kelly stepped farther inside until she heard movement upstairs. Her mother was showering. Kelly looked toward the staircase. Then toward the closed bedroom door at the end of the hall. Her parents' room. Her stomach twisted with guilt before she even touched the handle. But she opened it anyway. The room looked exactly the same as always. Beige walls. Neatly folded blankets. Robert's reading glasses sitting beside his alarm clock. 30 years of marriage contained inside one quiet room. Kelly moved carefully toward Elena's dresser, her pulse hammering harder with every step. She did not even know what she was searching for. Proof maybe. Or reassurance. Something that made this nightmare make sense. Most drawers contained normal things. Sweaters. Jewelry. Old receipts. Then Kelly noticed the bottom drawer would not fully open. Something blocked it from behind. She knelt slowly and reached inside until her fingers brushed against cold metal. A lockbox. Her heart immediately started racing faster. Kelly pulled it out carefully. Small. Black. Heavy. Not locked. Which somehow felt worse. Inside were dozens of old photographs bundled together with faded ribbon. Some had been partially burned at the corners like someone once tried to destroy them. Underneath the photographs sat a stack of letters tied with twine. Every envelope carried the same handwriting. Vincent. Kelly's throat tightened. But what truly made her blood run cold was the final item. Sitting beneath everything else. A yellowed bank document dated 30 years earlier. Transfer amount, $75,000. Recipient, Vincent Hale. Memo line, leave town. Never contact her again. Kelly stared at the document in complete disbelief, her hands trembling so badly the paper rattled softly against her fingers. $75,000. 30 years ago. That kind of money could have bought a house back then. And the memo line felt less like a request and more like an order. Leave town. Never contact her again. Her breathing became shallow. Suddenly every piece of this nightmare started locking together in ways she did not want to understand. The DNA results. Vincent Hale. Her mother's fear. Robert's silence. Kelly quickly untied the stack of letters next. Most were dated within the same year, all written in the same slanted handwriting. Some pages looked worn from being opened too many times. Others had tear stains smeared across the ink. Kelly opened one carefully. Elena, I know you are scared, but I cannot pretend she is not mine. You cannot erase me from this. Kelly felt her chest tighten painfully. She flipped to another letter. Robert came by the garage today. He told me if I really cared about you, I would disappear. Is that what you want too? Another letter. I saw you at the grocery store holding your baby today. She has my eyes. Kelly stopped breathing for a second. My eyes. Her vision blurred instantly. She dropped the letters onto the bed as nausea rolled through her stomach. Kelly? Elena's voice echoed suddenly from the hallway downstairs. Kelly's entire body froze. Footsteps moved through the kitchen below. Closer. Kelly shoved the letters back into the lockbox frantically, but her hands were too shaky now. One photograph slipped loose and fell onto the carpet. She looked down automatically. It showed Vincent holding a newborn baby wrapped in pink blankets outside what looked like a hospital entrance. Written on the bottom corner in Elena's handwriting were 4 words. 2 days before Robert came. Kelly heard her mother climbing the stairs. Panic surged through her instantly. She slammed the lockbox shut and shoved it halfway back into the drawer just as Elena appeared in the bedroom doorway. The second Elena saw Kelly standing there, her face drained completely of color. What are you doing? She asked sharply. Kelly turned slowly, still holding the photograph in her hand. Neither woman spoke for several seconds. The silence felt unbearable. Then Elena noticed the picture. Her expression shattered instantly. You went through my things, she whispered. Kelly could barely get the words out. Who is he? Elena closed her eyes tightly like someone physically struck her. Kelly, do not lie to me anymore. Her voice cracked louder than she intended. Who is Vincent Hale? Elena looked terrified now. Not angry. Not defensive. Terrified. She stepped farther into the room carefully. Please give me the photograph. No, Kelly backed away immediately. Tell me the truth first. Elena's eyes filled with tears almost instantly. It is complicated. Kelly laughed bitterly through the lump in her throat. Complicated? She grabbed the DNA results from her purse and threw them onto the bed between them. This says Robert is not my biological father. Elena stared at the papers like she already knew exactly what they said. That hurt worse than anything else. You knew, Kelly whispered. Oh my God, you knew. Elena covered her mouth, crying silently now. But Kelly could not stop. Everything she had held back for 2 days exploded out of her at once. You let me grow up believing a lie my entire life. I was trying to protect you, Elena whispered weakly. From what? Kelly shouted. The truth? Elena suddenly looked older than Kelly had ever seen her before. Exhausted. Defeated. Robert wanted to tell you years ago, she admitted quietly. Kelly felt the room tilt beneath her feet. What? But I begged him not to. Kelly stared at her mother in horror. Dad knew? Elena nodded once, tears running down her face. He has known since the day you were born. Kelly felt like the floor beneath her no longer existed. She stared at her mother across the bedroom, trying to process the words she had just heard, but her brain refused to accept them. Robert knew. Not recently. Not after some secret confession years later. Since the day she was born. 30 years. 30 years of birthday parties, family vacations, bedtime stories, Christmas mornings, scraped knees, college tuition payments, Sunday phone calls, and every single one of those moments had existed beside a truth Kelly never knew. No, she whispered automatically, shaking her head. No, that is not possible. Elena wiped tears from her cheeks with trembling hands. Kelly, please sit down. Do not tell me to sit down. Her voice echoed louder than she intended. You both lied to me my entire life. Elena looked shattered now, but Kelly could not stop. The pain inside her chest had turned into something sharp and uncontrollable. Did everybody know except me? She demanded. Grandma? Aunt Rachel? Family friends? No, Elena said quickly. Very few people knew. But Dad did. Elena closed her eyes for a second before nodding slowly. Yes. Kelly laughed bitterly, but there was no humor in it. So every time he called me his daughter, her voice broke. Elena stepped forward carefully. You are his daughter. Biologically, I am not. That does not change what he felt for you. Kelly looked away instantly because hearing those words somehow hurt even worse. She remembered Robert teaching her multiplication at the kitchen table when she was 8 years old. She remembered him driving through a snowstorm at 3 a.m. when she got stranded during college break. She remembered him crying harder than she did after her last breakup because he hated seeing her heartbroken. Every memory suddenly carried two versions now. The one she believed. And the hidden one underneath it. Tell me what happened, Kelly whispered finally. Elena sat slowly on the edge of the bed, staring down at her own hands. For several seconds, she said nothing. Then she spoke so quietly Kelly almost missed it. I met Vincent before Robert. Kelly remained standing, arms folded tightly across her chest like she needed to physically hold herself together. We were together for almost 2 years, Elena continued. I loved him very much. Kelly swallowed hard. Then why did you marry Dad? Elena's face tightened with guilt instantly. Because Vincent left. The letters say something different. Elena looked up sharply. You read them? Enough. Tears filled Elena's eyes again. It was complicated back then. Kelly was beginning to hate that word. Complicated. People used it whenever the truth sounded ugly. Vincent had dreams bigger than this town, Elena said softly. He wanted to move to California. Start his own business. Travel. Robert was, she stopped herself. Safe. Kelly finished bitterly. Elena looked ashamed. Stable. The silence between them thickened. Finally Kelly forced herself to ask the question she feared most. Did you cheat on Dad? Elena shook her head immediately. No. Robert and I were not together yet. Kelly frowned. Then why did Dad pay Vincent to disappear? Elena's expression changed instantly. Panic flashed across her face again. Real panic. What? I found the bank transfer. Elena stood up too quickly. You were never supposed to see that. Then explain it. Elena turned away, pacing toward the window now. Robert thought he was protecting us. From what? Elena looked back slowly, and for the first time since this nightmare began, Kelly saw genuine fear in her mother's eyes. Because Vincent came back after you were born. Kelly felt her pulse spike instantly. What? Elena's voice trembled. He wanted to take you with him. Kelly stared at her mother in stunned silence, trying to reconcile the image she had created in her head with the story Elena was now telling her. For the last 2 days, Vincent Hale had existed like some ghost haunting the edges of her life. A hidden man in old photographs. A secret name whispered with fear. But now suddenly he was becoming real. A real person who had apparently wanted her. Take me where? Kelly asked quietly. Elena looked exhausted. California. He said he wanted us to leave together. Kelly frowned. Us? Elena nodded slowly. Vincent came back when you were 2 weeks old. He said he made a mistake leaving town and wanted another chance. Kelly's pulse pounded harder. Then why did you not go with him? Elena looked down at the carpet. Because by then Robert was already there. Something about. The way she said it made Kelly's chest ache unexpectedly. Robert stayed? Elena gave a weak, emotional laugh through her tears. Your father practically lived at the hospital after you were born. Kelly almost corrected her automatically. Your father. But she could not bring herself to say the words anymore. Not yet. Elena wiped her face carefully before continuing. Robert knew there was a possibility you were not biologically his. But he told me he did not care. Kelly felt something crack quietly inside her chest. He still chose me? Elena nodded immediately. Without hesitation. The room suddenly felt unbearably heavy. Kelly remembered every sacrifice Robert had ever made for her, and now each memory carried a deeper meaning she never understood before. He did not love her because he had to. He chose to. Every single day. Then Vincent showed up, Elena whispered. And everything fell apart. Kelly folded her arms tighter across herself. What happened? Elena hesitated again, and Kelly instantly noticed it. Mom. Elena sighed shakily. Vincent wanted us to leave Milford and start over somewhere else. He said he wanted to raise you himself. And? Elena looked toward the bedroom door as though terrified Robert might somehow hear this conversation even though he was gone. Robert told him no. Kelly frowned. You mean Dad told him no? Elena nodded slowly. They argued constantly for weeks. About me. Yes. Kelly sat down finally because her legs no longer felt stable. 30 years ago, 2 men fought over whether she stayed or disappeared across the country, and she had lived her entire life without knowing any of it. Then one night Robert came home and told me Vincent had agreed to leave. Kelly's stomach tightened immediately. Just like that? Elena looked uncomfortable. Robert said Vincent took the money and left town willingly. But you do not believe that. Elena stayed silent too long. Kelly noticed every detail now. The trembling hands. The avoidance. The guilt. Mom, Kelly whispered carefully, what are you not telling me? Elena's eyes filled with tears again. I never saw Vincent after that. But you kept his letters. I could not. Throw them away. Kelly looked toward the lockbox still sitting half-hidden inside the dresser drawer. Did you love him more than Robert? Elena's face crumpled instantly. That is not fair. It is a real question. Elena sat back down heavily on the bed. I loved them differently. Kelly laughed bitterly under her breath. That sounds like something people say when they destroyed everybody involved. Elena flinched at the words but did not deny them. The silence stretched painfully between them. Then Kelly asked the question she had been afraid to say out loud since this started. Did Vincent ever try to contact me after he left? Elena looked up sharply. No, too fast. Too automatic. Kelly immediately knew she was lying again. Mom. Elena shook her head, panic returning to her voice. Kelly, please let this go. He did try, did he not? Elena's breathing became uneven. There were a few letters over the years. Kelly felt physically sick. You kept them from me? Elena started crying harder now. I thought I was protecting our family. Kelly stood slowly, staring at her mother like she no longer recognized her at all. Then Elena whispered the sentence that changed everything again. Last year. Vincent tried to find you. Kelly felt the air leave her lungs completely. What do you mean he tried to find me? Elena looked terrified. She had already said too much. It was nothing, she whispered quickly. He sent a letter. A letter you hid from me. Elena closed her eyes. Yes. Kelly turned away sharply, pressing both hands against the edge of the dresser because suddenly the room would not stop spinning. Last year. Not 30 years ago. Not ancient history buried in old photographs and faded letters. Last year. While Kelly was living her normal life, going to work, meeting friends for brunch, calling Robert every Sunday morning, somewhere out there another man had been searching for her. Her biological father. The thought felt unreal. Where is the letter? Kelly asked quietly. Elena hesitated too long again. Mom. Without another word, Elena walked slowly toward the closet. From the top shelf she pulled down an old floral storage box Kelly vaguely remembered from childhood Christmas decorations. Elena opened it carefully and removed a single white envelope, yellowed slightly around the edges. Kelly immediately noticed her own name written across the front in shaky handwriting. Kelly Parker. Not sweetheart. Not baby girl. Not daughter. Just her name. Elena held the envelope tightly for a second before finally handing it over. Kelly stared at it like it might explode in her hands. You never opened it? Elena shook her head slowly. I could not. Kelly looked up sharply. Or you did not want me to? Tears filled Elena's eyes again, but Kelly no longer knew how to comfort her. Right now every answer only created more damage. Kelly slid one trembling finger beneath the envelope seal and unfolded the single page inside. The handwriting matched the old letters from the lockbox immediately. Kelly, you do not know me, although I have thought about you every day of my life. I promised myself years ago that I would stay away because I believed it was what your mother wanted. But after my heart attack last winter, I realized I could not leave this world without at least trying to reach you once. I do not want money. I do not want to ruin your family. I only want the chance to know whether you are happy. I have enclosed my address in case you ever wish to contact me. If you never do, I will understand. But please know there has never been a single birthday where I did not think about you. Kelly's vision blurred halfway through reading. She lowered the paper slowly, her chest aching with a kind of grief she did not even understand yet. Heart attack, she whispered. Elena nodded weakly. He has been sick for a while. Kelly looked back down at the letter. There was no anger in it. No manipulation. No bitterness toward Robert. Just sadness. 30 years of sadness compressed into one page. Why would you hide this from me? Kelly asked quietly. Elena sat down heavily on the edge of the bed again. Because I was afraid. Afraid of what? Elena looked directly at her for the first time in minutes. That if you met him, you would realize he was supposed to be your real life. The sentence hit Kelly harder than anything else so far. Because underneath all the lies and secrecy and fear, her mother had just admitted something devastating. She had spent 30 years terrified of losing her daughter. Kelly looked back at the letter again. At the shaky handwriting of a man she had never met but somehow shared blood with. Then she noticed something attached to the bottom corner of the page. A small business card from a nursing home in Burlington, Vermont. Green Meadows Assisted Living Center. Kelly's stomach tightened immediately. He lives there? Elena nodded silently. Kelly checked the timestamp printed on the letter again. 11 months ago. Almost an entire year had passed while this man waited for a response that never came. Suddenly Kelly pictured someone checking the mail every day, hoping for a message that would never arrive. The image nearly shattered her. Then another terrifying thought entered her mind. Does Dad know about this letter? Elena's silence answered before her mouth did. Elena finally looked away and whispered the answer Kelly already knew was coming. Yes. Kelly laughed softly in disbelief, but there was no happiness in it anymore. Only exhaustion. So Dad knew Vincent reached out after 30 years, and he still never told me. Elena's voice trembled. Robert was scared. Of what? Kelly asked bitterly. That I would suddenly stop loving him? Elena did not answer because they both knew that was exactly the fear. Kelly looked down at the letter one last time before carefully folding it closed again. Her entire life felt split into two different realities now. In one version, Robert Parker was simply her father. The only father she had ever known. In the other, there was a lonely man sitting in a nursing home 3 states away who had spent 3 decades wondering if his daughter was happy. Neither reality erased the other. That was the part hurting Kelly the most. I need some air, she whispered. Elena stood quickly. Kelly, please do not drive upset. But Kelly was already walking downstairs, clutching the letter tightly in her hand. Outside, the afternoon sky had turned dark gray again, heavy clouds stretching across the neighborhood. She sat inside her car for nearly 10 minutes without starting the engine, staring blankly at the steering wheel while memories crashed through her mind one after another. Robert cheering louder than any parent at her high school graduation. Robert building her first bookshelf by hand because she could not afford furniture after college. Robert hugging her after every heartbreak like he could somehow protect her from the world itself. Then another image forced its way into her thoughts. A man she had never met sitting alone beside a mailbox waiting for a reply that never came. Kelly covered her face with both hands. She no longer knew who deserved her anger. Eventually she started the car. 20 minutes later, she pulled into the parking lot of Robert's hardware distribution warehouse near the edge of Milford. His truck sat near the loading dock exactly where it always did. Kelly suddenly felt terrified. Not of Vincent. Not of the truth. Of him. Because somehow facing Robert now felt harder than everything else combined. She found him alone inside his small office near the back warehouse wall, reading invoices with his glasses low on his nose. The second he looked up and saw her expression, his face fell immediately. He knew. Hey, kiddo, he said softly, standing up slowly. Kelly hated how normal his voice sounded. You knew about the letter. Robert froze completely. Silence filled the office. Finally he removed his glasses carefully and placed them on the desk. Your mother told you. Kelly nodded once, tears already burning behind her eyes again. Why would you keep that from me? Robert looked older than ever suddenly. Tired in a way Kelly had never noticed before. Because I was selfish, he admitted quietly. The honesty of the answer nearly shattered her. I spent 30 years terrified that one day you would look at me differently. Kelly shook her head emotionally. Dad, Robert flinched slightly at the word. You do not have to call me that right now. Stop. Her voice cracked hard. Do not do that. Robert looked down at the floor. Kelly, I know I had no right to hide this from you. Then why did you? Robert swallowed hard before answering. Because every time I looked at you, I forgot we did not share blood. Kelly felt tears finally spill down her cheeks. Robert's own eyes were red now too. The day you were born, he continued quietly, I held you for maybe 10 seconds before I knew I could never walk away from you. Kelly could barely breathe. Even after you knew? Especially after I knew. The room fell silent except for the faint hum of warehouse machinery outside the office walls. Then Robert asked the question he had clearly feared for years. Do you still see me as your father? Kelly stared at him through tears, realizing in that moment that biology had created her life, but this man had built it. Slowly, emotionally, she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him. Robert broke down instantly, holding her tighter than ever before. And for the first time since opening that DNA test, Kelly finally understood something that no report could measure. One man gave her blood. The other gave her a home.